Hello there, thank you so much for tuning in to Town Meeting TV. My name is Bobby Lussier, and I'm so lucky to be joined today by the freshly crowned Miss Vermont 2026, Hannah Roque. Hannah, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure.
It must be an incredible experience. Just these past few weeks, I'm sure, have been a whirlwind. How are you feeling just in the first weeks here of your year as Miss Vermont?
It's been unreal. This was my 6th time competing for the title of Miss Vermont. I first started when I had just turned 20. I'm about to turn 27. So the fact that this has been such a huge chunk of my life that I've spent working towards this, to finally get to experience this has just been unreal. I still have a hard time believing that this is actually happening.
That's awesome. Congratulations again. And I do have to, of course, start with your family history with Miss Vermont. So your mom was Miss Vermont 1996.
Yes.
So I have to ask, talk to me a little bit about what it was like to grow up with this dream, and how that influenced the way that you showed up in the pageant.
It influenced so much, not just in the way that I showed up on stage, but also just in my life. I mean, my mom not only was Miss Vermont 96, but then she took me to my first state competition when I was 26 days old. So this has been in my blood forever. We would play Miss America with my Barbies together. Truly, before I even knew what a dream job was, Miss Vermont was my dream job. And so getting to now at 26 years old, accomplish my childhood dream is something I will never be able to find the words to express accurately how that feels, but then also for that all to culminate on my mom's 30th anniversary. Again, that was 6 years of hard work, a lifetime of loving this organization, and then for everything to happen on my mom's 30th was just can't be described.
It might be kind of a silly question, but why were you drawn to Miss Vermont?
It's an organization that is centered around women empowerment and a huge emphasis on scholarship dollars. Miss America is one of the largest scholarship providers for women in the country. And when I was a little girl, I saw my mom go back to grad school, get her master's degree with dollars directly from the Miss America opportunity. So I saw from a very young age, not just the glamour, the sparkly, but I also saw very realistically why Miss America is such a positive impact. And then as I've grown up, seeing these women as my mentors and as my celebrities, getting a chance to watch their successes and see how this organization is a huge jumping off point for female success, especially in the state of Vermont, has always been something that I really wanted to pursue. And then also the service element. I am here today not just because of the support of my family and my friends, but also because of the communities that raised me. And so having this incredibly special platform to get to give back to those communities is something that I will treasure forever.
Yeah, and we're going to get into you have a lot of impact planned for this year, and I'm excited to talk about that. But I want to know a little bit more about your mom's involvement. So she won 30 years ago, and then you've been competing for a few years now. What level of involvement did your mom have in how you strategized to show up in the competition?
She was wonderful. When I was growing up, she never wanted to push me into doing this. She made sure that it was my choice. And so when I made the decision to first compete in 2019, she was all in, super on board, and has always been my #1 supporter. She also has her bachelor's degree in musical theater, so I sang for my talent on stage, and so she is my talent coach. And so she has contributed to every single part of the competition, and in so many ways it's given us a chance to have almost girlhood moments together, because like going gown shopping or getting to read that first email from Miss America with Hannah Roque is Miss Vermont, and we're sort of like squealing together. Getting a chance to have those moments together is so special.
That's really sweet. And so you mentioned a little bit about the phases of the competition. So what did you sing, first of all?
I sang a song called They Just Keep Moving the Line from the TV show Smash. It was actually also just on Broadway
not
too
throwback.
long ago. I know, I know.
Why did you choose that song?
I actually sang that song for the first time in 2019 when I first competed, and it was just a song that I loved. I loved the TV show Smash, but when I was thinking about my talent song this year, I was thinking about the story of that song. It's about someone who has started this race, thought it was theirs, but then for whatever reason, that finish line just kept getting moved. And so the story is about perseverance and hard work and coming back time after time after time to kind of get that trophy and get that winning moment. And this was my 6th year competing, 7 years after I competed for the first time, my mom's 30th. I had this feeling of like, if not now, then when? And I really resonated with that song. So it felt very narratively lovely to bring back an old talent song from my first year competing, but I felt like the story of the song also really just encapsulated my entire journey throughout this organization.
Yeah, so much meaning there. Talk a little bit about the other phases of competition and how you showed up there.
Yeah. So the Miss America opportunity has several phases of competition. The first is a private interview that's 10 minutes long with the judges the day before competition. That's one of my favorite phases because the judges can pretty much ask you anything. And I had the wonderful opportunity to talk a lot about my legacy as Miss Vermont and my dreams for the program. The judges were just incredible. And it was the first time that I had interviewed where I felt like 10 minutes wasn't enough time. But then we go into the onstage phases of competition. This year, talent was first, also one of my favorites because I love performing. And then we went into onstage question, which is an extension of your interview, where they ask just one question. You have 30 seconds to answer, and that's the minute in the hot seat. I know. As a talker, that can be a challenge sometimes.
God. Yeah, 30 seconds is nothing.
Not at all, I know. And then we went into the health and fitness phase of competition. Miss America is partnered with Rebel Athletic and has a fitness sponsorship. So we wear Rebel Athletic fitness wear on stage and model that. But it's also red to signify the partnership with the American Heart Association. So the health and fitness phase of competition showcases the commitment to living a heart-healthy life, and as someone that advocates for stroke and heart disease awareness and how to minimize the risks of stroke and heart disease, it very much aligns with my personal mission. And then finally, evening gown, which is just the glamour moment. As a Vermonter, I don't get a lot of opportunities to wear gowns and heels, so I always soak in those moments.
That's so awesome. I want to go back to the question. You had 30 seconds. What was your question?
It was about AI. I talk about AI a lot at work. I think about it a lot. I'm going to be honest, I don't remember the exact question because I totally blacked out the moment. But I remember that was my one moment on stage where I got just like distracted in the moment and I sort of didn't answer the question as well as I wanted to. But
how can you at 30 seconds? It takes 30 seconds to say hello.
I know.
Oh,
I know. But luckily it worked out. And if anyone asks me questions about AI in my entire year, I'm ready.
Yeah, how do you prepare for that moment?
You just do a lot of reading because you never know what they're going to ask either. And so I'm always a big proponent of making sure that I know my opinions on certain things and being able to talk about those things, because I always said that when I won Miss Vermont, I never wanted to do it at the cost of my beliefs or my opinions. So knowing how to talk about those things, even if they're a little controversial in certain circles, talking about them respectfully, but then also being able to condense my opinions in 30 seconds. It's just a lot of practice.
Well, now since you've said that you have been practicing, how do you use AI? How does AI show up in your life, and how do you think about it?
Yeah, so we talk a lot about this again at the Career Center because I work at the University of Vermont, and so our students are using AI a lot. And so a lot of what we have been talking about is the ways in which it can be used ethically in career prep, as well as thinking about how AI is changing our world and how we can use it as a tool. There's no one answer. We haven't solved AI, but we've thought a lot about it and thinking about that ethical piece too of how can you utilize AI in a career field that may be using it as a standard, but then also reconciling that with your own personal views. Say you're an AI hater, but you're forced to use AI at work. How do you navigate those ethical decisions as well? So it's a lot of more questions, but we utilize it and just trying to figure out how we can use it as a tool to serve our students.
Right. Are there any common student uses of AI that you kind of advise against, or like lightly or maybe not so lightly push back on for your students that you work with?
100%. A lot of questions that I get are if jobs and organizations are putting application materials through AI to filter through a job applicant pool, then why shouldn't they use it to generate their resume and their cover letter? Which is a huge no. A lot of what I do is talking about resume and cover letter writing tips and tools. And my biggest piece is that right now we're craving authenticity, and the job market is the same way. And so someone that is applying for a position who shows genuine excitement and eagerness and passion for the role or the field is going to be a much better candidate than someone who used AI to generate, maybe it's a perfect resume and a perfect cover letter, but that humanity piece and that values piece and just that passion isn't necessarily there, and that's what employers are looking for.
Super fascinating, makes a lot of sense. All right, so back to the competition. So you completed your phases of competition, and then at the end, I think we do have a picture here of the moment when you learned that you had won. What was that moment like, and did you have a hunch like, oh, I think I'm in a pretty good position here, but are you, did you have a good feeling at that moment, or were you surprised?
It's sort of a yes and situation. I, of course, had hoped that it was going to be me, but by the time it was the final two of us, it was me and one of my best friends named Emma. And she, actually, you can see her, she's the one in the blue right behind me with her hand over her heart. So that's one of my best friends. And so the fact that it was the two of us at the end, I knew that I would be happy regardless of the opportunity that, whoever won in that moment, I was going to be thrilled for them. But we had just a special moment that this is like the one thing I remember from my crowning, because I've kind of blacked out the rest of it. But I just remember her saying to me, she's like, Hannah, you're going to be amazing Miss Vermont. And I said, Emma, you're going to be an incredible. And she said, no, Hannah, you're going to be an amazing Miss Vermont. And at that point, I was hyperventilating a little bit. And so she said, all right, we're going to take a deep breath together. All right, breathe in, breathe out, and then my name was called. And that is something that I will remember forever, and getting to share that with, again, one of my best friends is so special.
I'm getting choked up.
I know. It has become a little bit of a joke, because for the first 3 days after the competition, I couldn't stop crying. And there are still moments when I'm just so overwhelmed with emotion that it gets me choked up.
And so sweet that you're able to build friendships through this competition, but it is also a place where you can build relationships.
Absolutely. I mean, I have met so many of my best friends through this organization. I started when I was a sophomore in college, but then the majority of my competing has been after I graduated college. And it's really hard to make friends in your 20s. And so I've had the good fortune to become best friends with a lot of these people. Another one of the women in the top 5 is actually my roommate. So she and I met competing 4 years ago, and we've lived together for the last 2 years. So it's given me a chance to form this sisterhood. I never was in a sorority. I never experienced that. But I often say that Miss America is my sisterhood, because we have that really close, tight-knit sisterhood that a lot of women experience.
It's really beautiful. Okay, so your community service initiative, you've already founded an organization. Hannah, you're focused on stroke awareness in Vermont. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, in 2018, my family's lives changed forever when my stepdad had a stroke. He was in his 50s, so he was really young to have a stroke, and it changed all of our lives. And so watching my mom, who's his primary caregiver, go through that life-changing shift, as well as my stepdad dealing with new physical limitations and new health concerns because of the stroke, really changed the way that I viewed the whole field. It was something that, we always knew strokes were a thing, but it never occurred to anyone in my family that someone as young and as healthy as my stepdad could be impacted. And then also through that, it was such a challenge, because we were as Trent was in the hospital navigating all of the healthcare system and everything, all of his treatments, we also were then relearning what a stroke was and what this meant for him and how strokes could change lives. And my mom and I decided that we really just didn't want anyone else to feel as isolated as we did in that moment, in that experience, because every single person that I've met throughout this organization, as I've gone to events, as I've met people, they've had some connection to stroke or heart disease, and oftentimes those two are really connected. And so realizing how far spread this cause is, how everyone has an access point into it, but that very few people are talking about it, lit a fire under me and caused me and my mom to create this organization called Stroke Awareness Vermont, which has started to provide resources for survivors and caregivers, as well as education to members of the public who may not be super familiar with stroke. And I've also started shifting my focus as Miss Vermont to talking about reducing the risk factors of stroke and heart disease, because those risk factors are pretty much the same across those two things. And it's also something that is so important to start doing from a very young age.
Okay, so what are they?
How to reduce the risk factors?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is centered around heart health, having a heart healthy a heart-healthy diet is one,
yep.
As well as incorporating movement every single day. That's something that's incredibly important, but also things like mitigating stress and lowering cholesterol levels, lowering your blood pressure. Those are all things that are really important to do that you don't necessarily realize are something that could be happening, right? Like, I'm 26 years old. I don't necessarily need to be thinking about my cholesterol or my blood pressure levels, but I've seen so concretely that stroke and heart disease can impact young people. And so by starting these habits now, I'm able to carry those through my whole life. And I'm hoping to continue empowering Vermonters to do the same thing and building those habits. That way they can just keep going and keep staying healthy.
You mentioned resources for families that are impacted by strokes. What does that look like?
Lots of different things. One of the initiatives that my mom and I started doing was we published a book of stroke survivor stories to really emphasize that survivors are not alone. That was a huge piece of it, was that my stepdad and my mom as a caregiver felt really isolated from a community of people who really understood. And so by putting these books out there, we wanted to make sure that survivors, even if they never interface with us, that they know that there are people out there just like them who are experiencing the same thing. But we also have, again, just so many resources in terms of things from the American Heart Association, things from studies that are published or information booklets. But also we have a caregiver support group as well. So my mom started a caregiver support group through Fanny Allen Hospital, and that has made a space for caregivers across Vermont, but also even a reach outside of the state, to give caregivers a space as well to process, to know that they're not alone, and to understand how this life-changing thing can happen and also how to move on from that.
Yeah, wow, that's really incredible. So you've just started your year as Miss Vermont, so are there any big sort of events or milestones? Like, what is this year going to look like as far as this initiative? Are there any big milestones that you're looking forward to?
Well, I'm already working with the American Heart Association's chapter in the state of Vermont to getting some campaigns up for Stroke Awareness Month, which is actually the month of May.
Oh,
so
here we
May
are.
is Stroke Awareness Month, so it's already the perfect time to be talking about this. So I'm working with the American Heart Association and hoping to, and not just hoping to, I will continue to work with them throughout my year, promoting both stroke and heart disease awareness. They have their annual Heart Walk in June that I will be attending, and being able to meet and speak with more survivors is going to just be incredible. But then every year, my organization, Stroke Awareness Vermont, hosts an event in October, an acknowledgement of World Stroke Day. So we're going to be hosting another event. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be a month after Miss America, so it's going to be a busy time, but I'm excited to bring the Miss Vermont title to that event.
Awesome. And Miss America, so it is coming up.
Yes.
What are your strategies? How are you feeling about showing up as Miss Vermont? And yeah, what are you hoping for at Miss America?
I'm so excited. I just can't wait. I mean, I have always dreamed about being Miss Vermont in so many ways. I never really thought about going to Miss America. So all of a sudden, I remember so vividly, I was crowned and my dad gave me a hug and then he said, "So Hannah, what's next?" And I was like, I don't know. We're finding out together. But in these first 3 weeks, I've had an amazing time meeting with sponsors and meeting with talent coaches and figuring out with the board and figuring out what do I want my Miss America experience to look like? What talent do I want to bring to the Miss America stage? What do I want my evening gown to look like? So I have been already in the thick of things, even though I haven't even been Miss Vermont for 3 weeks yet. But what I really want is just to show America just the heart of Vermont. We are just strong people who are passionate and who are just eager and kind. And I really want to bring all of those characteristics about Vermont to the stage, to the Miss America stage.
That's awesome. Have you been to Miss America before?
I have. I actually was very fortunate. It used to be held at Mohegan Sun in Connecticut. So when it was drivable, I was able to see a couple of my friends compete for Miss America. And again, I remember this goes back to that sisterhood aspect. One of my best friends is Miss Vermont 2021. She and I met our first year competing in 2019. I went to go see her compete at Miss America. And when she hugged me after I won, she said, "Hannah, our dreams came true." Like that, those girls in 2019, their dreams came true. And so I'm so excited to see, I have a whole crew of people who are potentially coming to Miss America to watch me achieve that dream. And it's just gonna be so amazing to finally be on stage rather than in the audience.
Yeah. And where is the competition this year?
It's gonna be in West Palm Beach, Florida.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I've never been before, so I'm really excited.
Cool. And how does, you've been a couple times, how does Miss America feel different from Miss Vermont?
It's just everything dialed up to 20. I mean, Vermont is a small state, and we are a pretty small program. So we had 12 girls competing this year. When I first started competing, we had 7 girls compete. So this organization has definitely grown, but there are 52 women competing at Miss America. So I thought 12 was big. I'm not even ready for 52. I mean, I am, but it's just funny because we've seen this program grow and we're hoping to watch the Miss Vermont organization continue to grow in the next several years. But I mean, it's Miss America. There are all of these women from across the state. It's going to be a week of events and of rehearsing. And it's just, again, so much on a bigger scale than we have here in Vermont that I'm sure it's going to be overwhelming. But I also know that it's something that I've been preparing for my entire life. And so I'm really excited.
Do you know if a Miss Vermont has ever won Miss America?
She is not. Miss Vermont has actually never made it into the top 11 at Miss America.
Okay,
so I know, crossing my fingers a little bit. That'd be pretty amazing. That would be, if I say this is unimaginable at times, that would be just like another stratosphere of incredible.
Yeah. So Hannah, you talked about your community service initiative and the power of this program. With your platform, anything else that you want to make sure that people understand about you or about the program this year? Anything that we mentioned, some of those controversial topics that you've been practicing talking about? Is there anything that you feel you really want to share or lift up with your platform this year?
A lot of what I have been thinking about, especially as a career services professional, is how this organization is really preparing young women for their career. Every single thing that I do on a day-to-day basis in my job are skills that I've developed through this organization. And so Vermonters, we're practical people. Sometimes you can look at a gal wearing high heels in the old north end of Burlington and be like, what is she doing? But just knowing that every single time they are seeing someone who is competing, who has this sash and crown on, that is someone that is investing their time and their energy, not just into an organization that is so dedicated to serving women, but is also investing into their career readiness. So to anyone who is interested in competing in this organization or interested in that empowerment piece or career development, let us know and reach out. We want to see this organization grow and change. And not only will you get a chance to benefit through that career readiness aspect, you'll also then benefit from all of the other things that I've talked about, the sisterhood, the confidence. But there's really no reason to not compete, so you definitely should.
Oh, that's so sweet. Hannah Roque is Miss Vermont 2026. Hannah, congratulations so much. And thank you so much for coming to our studio here and chatting with us about all that you plan to do. You've got a busy year planned, you've got a lot going on, and we're grateful to be a part of it and to be able to share in your mission. So Hannah, thanks so much. Thank you for tuning into Town Meeting TV. Feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more local heroes like Hannah. Thanks so much and so long.